So another founder in car, and today we will discuss living from a car. So on average, if people go on trips with a car, they have a caravan, so they pull something with them that is a little mobile home, so to say, or they have a camper, which is an integrated car and caravan, so to say. So it's more like a big van, specifically made to make your travel as accompanying as possible and having a little home with you. But nowadays also you see a lot of people living from their car, and it could be a plethora of reasons. Sometimes they really want the freedom to do so, and that's the positive vibe. You have freedom to go and stand wherever you want. You can uh, visit a lot of places, work from abroad, work from a distance, so to say. Then you have that benefit. But also, a lot of people are now having only one other option, and that's living on street, because houses are becoming extremely expensive, and also living from a hotel if they have to travel for their job is just not an option because that would cost them more than they make that day. Yeah? And if that is the case, so they want to save expenses, so cost saving. Or a lot of students that cannot afford living somewhere, they have to pay their tuition fees, which is a lot. They cannot also pay for their housing, and they just live from the university parking ground. So there are different places to come from, and especially if your only place that you have left, that you, for example, you lost your house, is your car, then you're quite stuck because a car is not so suited as the bigger van, which sits between the one side the camper, one side the car, and the van is a little bit in between because it has a higher roof and a lot more room. But then they just make do, and oftentimes they don't have a lot of improvement adaptations to their car to make it work. They just make it work, fall down the seat, and go for it with minimum adjustments. And I really am proud of them that they are able to do so. And I think they should really cling on to that part because it's a lot better than living on the street. Without anything, you still have your own safety place. On the other hand, you have people that have converted their car, especially if they have a van. Oftentimes they use a van because it already has a lot of those benefits that also a camper has. A camper is a lot more expensive to begin with, and also it's very hard to have guerrilla camping. Why? Because you see it's a camper dedicated for this purpose. So if they aren't allowed or they have to pay also still to live somewhere, for their staying place. With a van, it would be easier to go below the radar, and with a car, even easier because it's completely not suited for that purpose normally. But people are very clever and make it suited, at least suiting their needs, and they can also lower their needs, of course, a lot. But there are some things also to consider. Right? These are people will praise it that it is a love song of minimalism, but that's also the only thing that you can. Yeah. Because you cannot take all the things that you might want to have with you because the space is just so limited. Also, you need, at least in the Netherlands, but also a lot of other countries, you need a place that your post goes to. So if it can be your parents or your friends or family or whatever, this can be beneficial. But please take into consideration if you're under high pressure, economic pressure, and some people will come to collect debts, for example. They will also come collect at the place where you send all your posts to. So if that's your father or mother or whatever, friends, they will also be at risk there because they have to prove that everything in that house, for example, is on their name. Otherwise, they will try to confiscate that. A better option could be, if you have the cash for that, to have a self-storage box that also can serve as a post address. So now and then you still have to collect that or let someone collect it for you. But that makes it a lot safer, and also you have an additional place where you can put your car, your van, your camper if it's big enough, and also a lot of stuff that you might not need every time with you. So because of the very limited space, if you don't need all the things all the time, you can just put them somewhere. And depending on the trip, you can take them with you. That can be a great benefit for you. And the things like safety. So it's a lot harder to have safety with a car, even a van that has everything blocked out, because some people try to get tools from vans, for example. Then they can also be at your door, or they are really preying at people in cars. So room, safety, hygiene is very hard to maintain because you cannot have normal shower or comforts, especially if you are living in a van or a car without all that adaptations. You can go to a sporting club or another facility that has those facilities, but you must take that into consideration. Also look at damp. So for example, if all the condense is forming, don't get into fungus, for example, that it is too damp. Other things to consider is that you have very little privacy, because you live on such a small place and you cannot block out all the views, especially also in parking places where there are big trucks that can even look from the top in. So there are things that you can do to block out the view, of course, but it will be very hard. And the other thing to consider is that legally, is it allowed to camp there? It can be that it's not allowed. And then with a van or a car, you might be going under the radar, but for how long will you do that? Yeah? Also, if something goes wrong with your car, for example, it catches fire, you're not losing only your car, you also lose your house. You have nothing anymore. So there are quite some things to take into consideration. Also, if you put your car in for a service, you need to be very careful that because if you also your valuables are in there, that you might lose some. So there are things to consider. It's not fair to only glorify this lifestyle. Of course, it also brings you a lot of joy. If you are able to work from a distance, then you can discover the entire country. You can even cross borders to different countries and live throughout Europe, for example. In the winter, go to Spain or France or Portugal instead of the colder countries. And in the summertime, then when it might be too hot there or too crowded, you can go visit other areas again. That's of course fantastic. And also that you can see a lot of places and you live a different type of lifestyle. And you can save a lot of money. And this is true. If you have to rent out something and have a car, and you can combine those two things, of course you will make enormous benefits. Also, you will limit travel to a minimum. So if you traveling and doing chores, you don't have to all the time come back to your house again, which probably centrally. So there are quite some benefits to take into consideration, but it's an enormously limited space that also needs to be addressed, with its own charm but its own flaws as well. Founder in Car, out.